And then I have other days where I feel like I'm scrambling and I just can't get on top of things. The scales are just completely out for me. I think I had one of those days yesterday and it sort of trickled into this morning. I ended up working until 7:30 last night, having a late night meeting that ran over time as well. I came out of that. My husband was literally burning the dinner. My son was sitting eating on his own. There was homework that hadn't been done yet. I still needed to do more work. I just didn't feel on top of anything yesterday. And I woke up early this morning to get going again. I think as I've joined here with you now, I'm feeling a little bit more balanced. I feel like I have things in control, but let's see how the rest of the day goes and the rest of the week goes. So what really is work-life balance? Well, it's a state of equilibrium where we feel we can equally prioritize the demands of our career and the demands of our personal life. So it's not about splitting the day 50-50. It's not about that scale being, perfectly balanced. It's that when we feel we need to prioritize work because there's a lot of deadlines, you have assignments that are due, maybe you have exams coming up, all those deadlines lurking, or you have a sick family member that you need to take care of. You can prioritize and stay on top of that and not feel that you're losing control of your work and your studies. But the problem with the term work-life balance is that it kind of implies that there is this 50-50 split, or that scale is going to be perfectly lined up if you were to have one of those balance scales. And what this sets us up for is failure. This is where we fail. This is where we get it wrong and where we start to lose confidence in ourselves, where we feel defeated because we just don't get that sense of getting on top of things. And reality really gets in the way. What has happened for most of us, I think, at least in the last 4 to 5 years, is that we've had an increase in our responsibilities at work. So for those of you that are working, I'm sure you've experienced that, especially if you are working remotely, you're finding you're working longer hours now. Perhaps individuals in your team or at work have slowly left and they haven't been replaced because there's been restructuring and there's been changes, or you're just given more tasks because work becomes more complicated and more demanding. At the same time, we've got increased responsibilities at home. Perhaps you are like me in that stage of your life where you have a partner, you have a home of some description with maybe even pets that you need to take care of. Perhaps you have a child or children as well. Perhaps you have elderly parents or family members that are staying with you that you're responsible for. But as we grow up and as we start adulting, there's just more and more home responsibilities as well. Paying bills, fixing things, feeding mouths, keeping on top of things. And then, yes, at the same time, there's financial pressure on top of us. It seems no matter how hard we work or no matter how hard we try, we still struggle to keep on top of our finances, especially as cost of living continues to increase every single month. So all of this places so much pressure on us and very often results in us having to focus a lot on earning an income. And the other things have to kind of fall by the wayside. Work demands are going to come first, because if we are working or if we are earning an income in any way, that becomes such a priority because of financial pressure, because we have these responsibilities at home that we need to take care of. Let's also be honest, sometimes we lack assertiveness. We take on too much because we struggle to say no. I have that problem. I struggle with the disease to please. I'm a people pleaser. So I'll have people asking me, please, could you just do this for me? Or could you take this on? My sister, oh, if it's not too much trouble, would you mind fetching my son from school and then dropping him at home? And I don't want to upset anybody. So I say, yes, of course, even though it means I'm going to lose another 30 minutes of my productive work time because now I'm fetching children that I didn't need to, but I want to be helpful. I want to help out as well. But is it because of poor boundaries and struggling to say no and just trying to please people all the time? So we'll touch on that a little bit later. We also get it wrong because of poor time management. Maybe we lack that self-discipline to keep us focused, to use the hours of the day efficiently and productively. Perhaps you press that snooze button on your alarm in the morning just way too much and you lose valuable time. And then you get up and you're still just exhausted because the night before you couldn't stop watching videos on TikTok or on Showmax when you should have been sleeping and getting vital sleep, or you should have been putting in some extra time for your studies. So sometimes we're also just a little bit disorganized. I certainly felt that way this morning when I sat down at my desk bright and early. I couldn't find some of my notes and my paperwork, and I looked at my desk and I was like, how did I become this disorganized? And I know it's a ripple effect of what happened to me last night with working late and running late and everything kind of, just blowing up around me. I normally pack my desk tidily every day so I can find things, and my action list for the day is there and my diary is open and ready so I know everything that's happening as it should. So being disorganized also creates that sense of not being balanced and not being in control. Again, a little bit of honesty here is that sometimes we make excuses or we procrastinate. We put off things we don't want to do. We leave those deadlines and those demands that are on us till the very last minute because maybe we are a little bit preoccupied and distracted with things that don't necessarily need our attention at that time. So we make excuses. I don't have enough time to get it all done, or this deadline is too tight, it's impossible. I can't possibly achieve that. Or I'm tired. I've worked hard this whole week. I just need a bit of a break. If I want to watch TikTok till 12 o'clock at night, I should be allowed to do that. We justify things and we make excuses. And sometimes we have some self-destructive or self-sabotaging habits, some bad habits that get in the way. In my world as a mental health practitioner and a counselor, I see a lot of individuals that turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms or maybe socialize a little bit too much on the weekends. That Friday vibe kicks in and they're out and they, hanging out with friends. Not saying we shouldn't do that, but the problem is if it's going to be excessive and if we should be maybe going home at a decent time, limiting what we're drinking so that the next morning we can start fresh and get our head into our books, for example, and start getting work done on that assignment that's due. So it's a really good thing to be honest with ourselves and to take a bit of a look at what we're doing and what some of our bad behavior or bad habits are that we've developed, like even sitting, watching series till too late at night and starting the day exhausted because we're not getting enough sleep. All of that has a ripple effect. And we do need to be honest about it and honest with ourselves to see, well, where am I going wrong? What could I improve on? Now, I wanted to share here with you that there are actually 4 spheres of human activity. All right, so it's not just about work and it's not just about life, and we can unpack life into more spheres, to be honest. I put studies in there as well because we're studying. Most of us are students, or even if you are just thinking about being a student, studies is going to have to come in here somewhere. If that is a goal that you have and that is something you are trying to achieve, for this year, for example. So we have work, which should roughly take about 8 hours of the day if we are working full time. We need to fit in our studies as well. We have family that we need to engage with and that are part of our lives, even if we don't necessarily live with them. It's still keeping that connection, keeping those family bonds and family relationships strong. It's our social life, it's our friends, it's those individuals that we connect with. Those ones that we do socialize with on a Friday because we need to just, have a little bit of time to chill and to refresh ourselves after a long week. And then there's ourselves as well. And under the self, in terms of the sphere of human activity, it's around what do you do to take care of yourself? What do you do to connect with yourself and just literally to keep in touch with yourself? Because it's so easy in all of this, in all of these demands, to lose sight of yourself and taking care of yourself. And that's where self-care comes in as well, and stress management and recharging your battery when you need it. So what happens if we don't have some type of work-life balance, or let's use the term work-life integration or work-life harmony? So where we've got a good sense of being in control of everything and being able to prioritize what we need to when we need to. Well, the first thing, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is that it increases our stress and anxiety levels. I'm just thinking again of what I shared with you in terms of how my day and my night went yesterday when I literally stepped out of my office, finished that late meeting, and yeah, everything was happening at home, including food being burnt. My stress levels went up because I immediately felt anxious about the fact that I'm not being a good enough mom and I'm not being a good enough wife because I've lost track of what's happening at home. I've lost control of it. My stress levels were through the roof last night by the time it came to me finally unwinding and getting to bed because my son still had homework to do. There were forms for the school that I needed to fill in and send back with him. There was so much to do, and my anxiety went through the roof. Also, what eventually happens is our work performance starts to decline. Even in terms of your studies, your study performance starts to decline because you are exhausted, because you are just overly stressed and you can't keep it all those balls up in the air and keep on top of everything. Relationships become stressed at work and at home. Last night, yes, relationships in my home was definitely stressed with me, having to work late and that sense that I had of not being in control of my work life. My husband was ratty with me because he'd burnt the food. I was ratty because I was hungry and I still had to do homework with my son. And there was just so much happening. So we were all sort of, getting irritated with each other and a little bit more snappy until eventually everybody could go to bed and just go into their corners and relax. Then a deterioration in physical and emotional functioning or coping might happen as well. So think of a time where you were just overwhelmed and you were not managing to feel any sense of balance, where you lost connection with yourself because you were so focused on work or that. It starts to impact our health as well. Those late nights, perhaps struggling with insomnia or where your sleep is disrupted, that emotional functioning, which impacts relationships, feeling a bit weepy and feeling emotional and feeling down or sad or heavy as well. It really starts to impact in us and on us and just our sense of confidence as well. And then life doesn't feel like it's very satisfying. You're so focused on trying to keep on top of work. Everybody else seems to have a life and seems to be having fun and seems to be, socializing and going to the gym or whatever it might be. And you feel that, you just get no sense of fulfillment and satisfaction, which is a horrible feeling to have. It can also lead to burnout, especially when we lose ourselves in work without looking after ourselves. We can easily burn out and get to that point of exhaustion where we just can't keep going anymore. And that's when all the balls fall out of the air, or where our wheels just fall off, so to speak, and we just can't even move forward anymore because we just can't take on anything or finish off anything. We're completely wiped out and completely burnt out. And what happens as well is that we're more likely to quit. We're more likely to drop out of our studies and not to finish them off. We're even likely to, maybe quit work. I know a lot of individuals who get to a point of complete burnout that feel that they just can't cope with work anymore and they can't do their job anymore. And there's different aspects of life that they just give up on. They stop doing sports, they stop engaging in things that did give them some sort of satisfaction and helped with some of their self-care. So quitting becomes more of an option when you're feeling so burnt out and when you have no sense of balance in life. Right, so what do you do about it? Where do you even start to get a sense of control, a sense of balance, a sense of harmony or integration in your life in terms of all those spheres that I shared with you? The first thing I want to challenge you to do is to accept that there is no perfect balance. All right? It's not ever going to be 50-50. You're never going to feel, certainly not for long periods of time or all the time, that you are 100% on top of your game in every aspect of your life. There will be days where you need to focus more on personal life because there could be something happening personally that needs your time, needs your energy, needs your attention. And there are going to be times where it's crunch time with your studies and you have to say, sorry, family, sorry, friends, I need to just check out for a while I focus on meeting these deadlines and getting on top of my studies because I'm determined to finish this course. Or work becomes demanding and you have to put in those extra hours to meet your deliverables, to finish off what you need to get done. There are just those times, and hopefully that doesn't last forever. You can get some sort of sense of balance as you tick things off and as you get them done. But another thing that you can do to try get a sense of balance is remind yourself what your goals are. It helps you to keep perspective when why am I studying so hard? Why am I so focused right now on trying to work and trying to study and I'm not getting time to socialize? Maybe it is your goal to push through and buckle down to get that course done this year because it's going to open doors for you in the future and you know why you're doing it. You also need to prioritize your health. So, in all this craziness of modern day living and all the things you are trying to balance on your plate right now, if you don't have health, you can't do any of it. Think of a time that you were really, really ill. You can't get anything done, especially if you're stuck in bed because you're so exhausted and you're so ill that you can barely lift your head off the pillow. I recall a time about 2 years ago where I had pushed myself way too hard, not taken any breaks. I was trying to do too much at once, didn't look after my health, and I landed up, with pneumonia. And I was so, so, so ill. I could barely put my foot out of bed. Never mind keep up with my work, keep up with my friends, look after my family. I had to take that time out to recover before I could slowly get back into things. So without health, we can do nothing. You need to take time to take care of your health. And don't be afraid to unplug for a while. Don't be afraid to reset. Maybe you do just need to take a day off where you are recharging your batteries, not just losing yourself on social media or watching series. Maybe that's part of it for you. But maybe you need to go spend some time in nature and just, reset so that you can pick up things again. Just take that little bit of time out to remind yourself of what your goals and your priorities are, to recharge that battery so you can get your head in the game again. So take some time off and get perspective. And we don't all have the luxury of being able to take a week off or, take 2 or 3 days off. Sometimes it is really demanding, and our time is under a lot of demand. But perhaps you could look at just taking an afternoon off that you carve out for yourself, where you go do something that you enjoy, or just rest and recharge so that, as I say, you could get back in the game. You need to make time for your loved ones. You need to make time for your health. If you don't make the time for it, it's not just going to happen. So perhaps you could have, for example, an agreement with the family members that you do live with that in the evenings, everybody is just going to even take 30 minutes together to enjoy dinner together, just to connect after a busy day, to see how everybody's doing, to share, some stories, maybe have a bit of a laugh about things that happened during the day, because that also helps to recharge your battery and it helps to give you some perspective. Or perhaps Sunday is family day. You put your studies aside, you're not going to switch on your laptop or look at any work, but you are going to spend some time with your loved ones on Sunday, as an example. And then set boundaries between your work, your studies, and your personal life. And I'll touch on that a little bit more, but really it is about, again, carving that time out, but not trying to multitask and do it all at once. So if you are working, can you put an hour aside tonight where you can focus on your studies and then rather focus on a bit of socializing and catching up with family and friends on Friday evening or on Sunday, as I mentioned. So having those boundaries and setting those times aside are going to be really, really helpful. And then also, how do you eat an elephant? Where do you even start with any task, with any deadline or goal that you have in front of you? Well, you eat it one bite at a time. All right, so one step at a time, one small little thing at a time. That is how you tackle it. That's how you gain a sense of control. And that's how you can find more balance and more integration with everything that you have on your plate. I wanted to just share these words of wisdom with you, that work-life balance is about creating a life that flows with you rather than a life you have to power through. All right, so finding that flow for yourself, that rhythm that works for you, even if it means one day is almost 90% work and studies, another day is 100% family, 50% of Saturday is just going to be selfishly spent on you. It's about finding that flow that works rather than feeling that it's just this life that you are powering through, that you're constantly having to push through. Almost like I always say, that hamster on the wheel that's just going round and round and round and round and not feeling that you're getting anywhere. So let's talk a little bit about building your confidence to help you to get to that point, of where you're confident to set boundaries, where you have the confidence to keep going even when the days get difficult, and to keep that sense of balance and control where you can. And I want to share with you that one of the first things, and probably the main thing that eats away at our self-confidence, is our negative self-talk. It's that little voice in our head that talks to us and how we talk to us. It's the tone that we use and the words that we use that defeat us and keep us down, because we're often our own worst critics and our own worst enemies. So maybe you find yourself saying things like this: I can't do this. I can't do anything right. I'm such a failure. I'll never be able to do it. I'll never be able to pull that off or to meet that deadline or to get through all this study material that I need to get through by next week. It probably wouldn't have worked out anyway, just that excuse and that sort of defeating talk that we use. So negative self-talk is really, really something that beats us down and something that we need to be so careful. And you're the only one that can control that. You're the one that needs to turn your negative self-talk around, and that you need to be more gentler and compassionate and kinder to yourself. So I wanted to ask you here, maybe you can think about this. And I might have put a mentee in, but what are some of the things that you tell yourself when you can't get it all done? When you have a day like I described to you yesterday, that I had yesterday, where everything seemed to go wrong and it just sort of snowballed and it was terrible. Yeah, I sat there eating my dinner, thinking to myself, and saying things in my head like, oh, you need to get on top of things. You're a terrible mom. You should be more focused on your son. You should be spending more time with family and keeping on top of things like dinner and that. I told myself that, and I spoke to myself very, very negatively last night. So I need you to think for yourself, what is some of the things that you say to yourself? What does that little voice in your head tell you when you can't get it right, when you make a mistake, when you fall behind? Because you need to nip that in the bud. You need to get rid of that negative self-voice. And again, I say to be kinder to yourself and to accept that we're never going to get it all right. There's no such thing as perfectionism. So I want to share with you a bit of a strategy as such in terms of how you can change those negative thoughts that you have and that negative self-talk in your head, how you can flip it around. And it's called the 3 C's. I use this a lot with individuals when they come to me for counseling. The first C is to catch that thought. So, for example, last night where I was telling myself, you're a terrible mom. Catch that thought. Tell yourself, wait a minute. Why am I thinking like this? Am I being fair to myself? Check that thought. Is it real? Is there evidence to show that I'm a terrible mom? Just because for one night in the week, my son was sitting eating on his own because I had to work late and things ran out of time. Check that talk in your head. Check that thought that you're hearing. Is there really evidence that you are the worst parent in the world, that you never complete anything, that you always fail? Check that thought and what evidence is there, because I promise you, when you think of it in that way, you'll realize the evidence against that negative talk is far stronger. You have succeeded at so much in your life, and one bad day doesn't mean it's a bad month or a bad life. It's just a bad day that you need to get through. So then the final C is to change that thought, you've checked it. No, I'm not the worst mother in the world. I spent time with my son on the weekend. We had a lovely time together doing gardening. We really connected. It was lovely. Today's just a bad day. Change that thought. Change it into something that you could say to yourself, like, I'm doing my best. Today's not going well, but tomorrow's going to be better. So use positive self-talk to help you change those negative thoughts in your head. All right, so I'm going to share with you now just a short video on boosting your confidence that I wanted to share with you. Here you go.
But what is confidence?
Yeah. Let's start it from the beginning.
When faced with a big challenge where potential failure seems to lurk at every corner, maybe you've heard this advice before. Be more confident. And most likely this is what you think when you hear it. If only it were that simple. But what is confidence? Take the belief that you are valuable, worthwhile, and capable, also known as self-esteem. Add in the optimism that comes when you are certain of your abilities. And then, empowered by these, act courageously to face a challenge head on. This is confidence. It turns thoughts into action. So where does confidence even come from? There are several factors that impact confidence. 1. What you're born with, such as your genes, which will impact things like the balance of neurochemicals in your brain. 2. How you're treated. This includes the social pressures of your environment. And 3. The part you have control over, the choices you make, the risks you take, and how you think about and respond to challenges and setbacks. It isn't possible to completely untangle these 3 factors, but the personal choices we make certainly play a major role in confidence development. So, by keeping in mind a few practical tips, we do actually have the power to cultivate our own confidence. Tip 1. A quick fix. There are a few tricks that can give you an immediate confidence boost in the short term. Picture your success when you're beginning a difficult task. Something as simple as listening to music with deep bass. It can promote feelings of power. You can even strike a powerful pose or give yourself a pep talk. Tip 2. Believe in your ability to improve. If you're looking for a long-term change, consider the way you think about your abilities and talents. Do you think they are fixed at birth, or that they can be developed, like a muscle? These beliefs matter because they can influence how you act when you're faced with setbacks. If you have a fixed mindset, meaning that you think your talents are locked in place, you might give up, assuming you've discovered something you're not very good at. But if you have a growth mindset and think your abilities can improve, a challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. Neuroscience supports the growth mindset. The connections in your brain do get stronger and grow with study and practice. It also turns out, on average, people who have a growth mindset are more successful, getting better grades, and doing better in the face of challenges. Tip 3. Practice failure. Face it, you're going to fail sometimes. Everyone does. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 different publishers before one picked up Harry Potter. The Wright brothers built on history's failed attempts at flight, including some of their own, before designing a successful airplane. Studies show that those who fail regularly and keep trying anyway are better equipped to respond to challenges and setbacks in a constructive way. They learn how to try different strategies, ask others for advice, and persevere. So, think of a challenge you want to take on. Realize it's not going to be easy. Accept that you'll make mistakes, and be kind to yourself when you do. Give yourself a pep talk. For it. The excitement you'll feel, knowing that whatever the result, you'll have gained greater knowledge and understanding. This is confidence.
So just a lovely feel-good video there to show that confidence is, whoops, let me move that on. Confidence is within all of us. It's about believing in ourselves. It's about having that growth mindset that we can, overcome the obstacles in our way, and that we can pep talk ourselves. Sometimes we have to be our biggest cheerleaders and keep us going, and believe in ourselves and know that our success rate is 100%, because so far as we sit together, we've got through everything we need to do. And yes, we might have made mistakes along the way, but we can learn from those mistakes and pick ourselves up and keep moving forward. So let's look at staying in the game to build your confidence. What can you do? I want you to imagine it's very much like, an avalanche. I'm sure you've seen movies where, there's an avalanche. They're busy, I don't know, hiking in the snow or camping outside somewhere in the snow, and there's mountains, and suddenly you hear the roar and there's an avalanche. The snow starts coming from the very top of that mountain and it starts rolling down. And by the time it hits the ground, it just floods everyone. But yeah, we're looking at it in a positive way, how you can gain momentum and build your confidence step by step. So the first thing is, identifying what are the areas you are struggling with, what are some of the challenges you might be facing right now. But once you acknowledge it and you identify it, you can start to plan. And I'm going to use the example of getting on top of your studies and the fact that, maybe you've fallen a little bit behind on some of the deadlines that are looming. Identify that and acknowledge that that is something that you're struggling with and that is a problem. Put a plan into place, so this weekend I'm not working on Sunday. Sunday morning, I'm going to get up early, I'm going to get on top of things, and then you make that commitment to it. You already get everything ready, you do what you need to do, you get all your errands run and done on Saturday, you socialize, you do what you need to do so that you committed and you follow through with your plan for studying on Sunday. And then as you have success, as you start to feel that sense of achievement while you're catching up with the studies and getting things done, you're going to keep moving. It's going to keep you going forward. It's going to keep that propelling and that momentum, really. And then the last aspect of it is just to reset when you need to. So maybe you wake up on the Monday morning and it's right, I need to reset for this week. I need to plan. There's another challenge that's come up. I need to work on this and I need to keep going. So staying focused, sort of working on those steps are going to help you to keep going. So some hot tips quickly that I want to share with you is firstly, commit to a morning routine. Make sure that your morning is running as smoothly as possible, because it has a snowball effect on us where things go wrong in the morning, if we oversleep or if we're very rushed and we haven't prepared ourselves for the morning, it impacts on the rest of the day. And we know when it happens on a Monday, it tends to set the tone for the rest of the week, doesn't it? So commit to a healthy morning routine where you have, the different steps that you take, the things you need to do in the morning to set that foundation for a productive day. Maybe get organized and prepare the night before. What could you prepare? Like me, normally tidying my desk so that when I start in the morning, I know where everything is and the pile that I have in front of me is my priority for the day ahead. Manage your time. We all only get the same amount of time. We all only get 24 hours in a day. We should be sleeping something like 6 to 8 hours of that for healthy functioning. And the rest of the time, it's up to us, to manage ourselves efficiently and to manage that time and to use the day and the hours and the minutes in that time, in that day, as best as we can. Look at how you can maybe stop distracting yourself with emails or, notifications, not just phone ringing, but notifications that are popping up from different WhatsApp groups that you're on, from, the social media that you might follow. Maybe you need to mute those or archive those for a while, especially while you're trying to get focused and gain that sense of balance. You can also look at how you could use technology wisely to try and help you save a bit of time, to help you structure your day a little bit better, maybe setting reminders, setting tasks. What can you use in terms of technology to help you? And then keep a to-do list. It is very helpful. I have a book in front of me that is my to-do list. I also finish every evening or every day's work by writing down what are the things I need to prioritize and get done the next day. Right here, I even have my highlighter as evidence. As I achieve it, I highlight it off to tell me that's what I've got done. I'm on top of things. It gives me a sense of control. It shows me what I need to keep focused on for the rest of the day. But I also then start my page for the next day, because maybe there are one or two things that need to shift to tomorrow morning because I overestimated what I'm going to get done today. So you could keep a notebook. You could use some form of technology to help you there. You could even use a voice note that you can send to yourself, unpacking what that particular to-do list is that you are prioritizing. Also very important, highlight and prioritize 2 or 3 things on your list. Because if you have too many things on that to-do list, you're not going to get through it and you're going to get overwhelmed. So the list might be long, but what are the 3 top things that are pertinent, that are vital for that day, and that you know you cannot put off another day? Another tip is to have realistic expectations of yourself. You only have so much energy. You only have so much hours in a day. You are only human. You are not superhuman and you are not a superhero. So set realistic expectations. And again, be kind to yourself if you are struggling a little bit. Be honest with yourself when you know you maybe need to take a bit of a break or you take on more than you can cope with. Taking regular breaks is helpful. I'm talking about even in the day to keep your battery charged, trying to take, even if you can't take a full lunch break because you've got too much to do, just try to take 15 or 10 minutes here or there to get some fresh air, to stretch your legs, to go make a cup of tea or whatever it might be. But it's so important to keep your battery charged. Keep things light and fun when possible. I like this saying, and I know there's a book actually called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Sometimes we spend so much energy, just getting overwhelmed by something. Don't sweat the small stuff. Most of it ends up working out after all. I was sweating something, a small stuff this week as well. Again, being a mom, there's a fundraiser at the school for Mandela Day, which is taking place, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow. I kept forgetting to put my little food parcel together that I'd committed to do. And I was sweating about that. I was so stressed about it. And then also in the chaos of last night, my son said to me, "Oh, Mom, don't worry. They've extended the food parcel, day until Friday. So you've got enough time to get that parcel together, Mom." Yes, I'd almost lost sleep for the last 2 nights because I felt that I'd failed because I didn't get that done. Some things just have a means of working themselves out, and we waste so much time and energy worrying about it. So what are the small things? What's the small stuff that you could stop sweating about and let go? And then dedicate at least 15 minutes every day just to you. Whether it is just sitting outside having a nice cup of tea, whether it is doing a crossword puzzle, whether it is reading a book, whether it is writing in a journal or just catching your breath for a few moments, you have to connect with yourself and look after yourself. So if you get it wrong or you do fall behind, you're feeling guilty about it, acknowledge the guilt, but let it go. Let it go. Don't sweat that small stuff. Don't beat yourself up and punish yourself for it. Pick yourself up. They say, fall 7 times, get up 8. Find out why you're feeling so guilty. What is at the root of that guilt? Is it your sense of confidence? Is it your sense of self-worth? Is it your sense of not having value? Why are you feeling so guilty? Touch base with that and then let it go. Remind yourself of what you've already achieved. Look at your success rate so far. Look at how you have got through other obstacles and other tough times in your life, and you've managed to problem solve, find solutions, get through it, pick yourself up again. And remind yourself that it's okay not to be okay sometimes, and it is okay to fall sometimes because that's sometimes where the lessons happen. Stop catastrophic thinking. Catastrophic thinking is also called awfulizing, where you always imagine the worst. I have a friend like that. She'll have, the slightest thing go wrong. And to her, that's an indication that her whole life is awful and everything is going wrong. And I've kind of got to help bring her down and say, just because you had a flat tire this morning or you missed the bus. She lives overseas. She often catches the bus and the train and that sort of thing. Just because that happened, it doesn't mean your whole life is awful. Stop catastrophic thinking. Everything's not going wrong all the time. Stop sweating that small stuff. Just take a moment to refocus and gain perspective. And then focus what is in your control, because that's going to help you get that sense of balance, and it's going to help you feel, like you're achieving. And here it is: fall 7 times and stand up 8. I know that can be hard sometimes, but you've done it before. So the more you pick yourself up, the more you can get strong, and the more you're going to be able to move forward. So let's finish it off now. I know we've hit the hour, so I'm hoping some of you can stay with us. But let's look at setting boundaries, because that's going to also help you save some time, and it's going to help keep you going. So let's watch this short video about boundaries.
Imagine you created a beautiful garden, but you notice people walking through the grass, littering, or even picking the flowers you've grown. So you put up a fence to mark what is your space, and you now decide who can come in through the gate. This is how we would protect our garden, and is also how we should protect ourselves, by setting boundaries. Boundaries are limits we set for ourselves within relationships, be they romantic, professional, friends, or family. You want to clearly see where you end and someone else begins.
I describe boundaries like a roadmap of me showing you how best to have a relationship with me. It is me clearly expressing and communicating my values and preferences, because I want you in my life.
Some examples of boundaries are physical boundaries, what you are comfortable with in terms of your own space and your own body. Emotional boundaries, what you are comfortable with sharing and what you would like to keep private. And time boundaries, how you would like to prioritize your own time and where you would like to take time to rest.
An example of a request would be, please stop raising your voice. An example of a boundary would be, if you continue to raise your voice, I'm leaving. That would be me clearly expressing my thoughts and feelings, being aware of what I'm responsible for, and being aware that I don't need to explain my no.
Boundaries are something that everyone can benefit implementing in their life, because they not only protect our time and energy, they also protect our relationships. They prevent miscommunication, misunderstandings, and built-up resentment. But what about when someone doesn't respect a boundary?
What's often difficult for people is what to do when somebody violates or oversteps a boundary. And if we use the earlier example, that if somebody was to raise their voice at me, I am responsible for protecting myself. A lot of people fall into rescuing or fixing the other person, whereas that is up to me to protect myself. And if you continue to raise your voice at me, I leave.
If you feel like you need support, please contact your local mental health services.
All right, just a little example and discussion there. Whoops, let's get this video
Imagine
to
you
go.
created a
Sorry, wants to play again. Yeah, so boundaries is, very much as you see, you can even set it in that way, or imagine it in that way. It's where you draw the line, where you put up the fence. This is what I'm doing to protect my time and to protect myself, and to protect my energy sometimes as well. So how do you start setting boundaries so that you can get more time, so that you can sort of keep yourself safe and sound? Firstly, identify and assess your boundaries. Where do you need boundaries? Maybe there are those friends that really just, push you a little bit too far, or lead you down the wrong road sometimes when you are trying to study and find that time. Communicate with them up front. I'm not going to be responding to your calls late at night because I need to get sleep and I need to be focused for the next day. Use assertive messages. That could be, for example, like she shared in the video, I need you to not raise your voice at me. If you continue, I'm going to leave. I need you to respect that I'm prioritizing my studies right now, and that I will hang out with you, I will socialize with you and spend time with you as soon as I've got this assignment out the way. And say no when you need to. Do you know that no is a full sentence? That you can say no without fully always having to explain yourself. I'd asked a friend a question the other day in terms of whether there's a project I'm working on. She'd helped me with it last year. It's an event that I work at. I asked her, will you be joining me this year again? And she went, no. And there was this awkward silence because I was waiting for her to explain her why, and she didn't. And then I was like, okay, got it. I'll respect that boundary. No, you're not working this year. That's great. And I moved on from there without making an issue of it. But I was so impressed with her way of just saying no. And she left it at that. It was a full sentence. And then, yes, walking away when you need to, realizing perhaps if somebody's not respecting your boundary, that you maybe just need to walk away from that and walk away from them. Perhaps it's a bit toxic for you. So boundaries can sound like, I just want to share some of this with you as we almost finish off now. When somebody asks you, could you do that for me? Could you help out with this? You could say something like, I need time to think about it. I'll come back to you. A good one, I've had to use this a few times. I don't respond to work emails at the weekend. I've had to tell a lot of people, I don't do counseling on the weekend. That is my family time. That is my focus on my home and my personal life time. I'm not comfortable with that. If you do it again, I will have to leave, same as she used in the video. I respect your opinions, but this is my life and this is my decision. I'll end this phone call if you continue to shout at me. I can stay for half an hour. So a time boundary there. Thank you for your offer. Unfortunately, I can't make it. I'm not comfortable discussing that. Please don't discuss it with me. So that's just some example of how you can put boundaries to protect yourself, to protect your time as well. And I'm going to finish off now, just sharing a little bit. Sorry that I'm pinching the few minutes that we lost with our technical hitch this morning, but keeping yourself motivated with everything I've shared about your confidence, about finding that balance, about letting go, about being kind to yourself. Yeah, it's just a summary. Manage your time and yourself as best as you can. We all only get 24 hours a day. Swallow the frog. So some of those things that you're putting off, that you don't want to do, sometimes you just got to swallow that frog and get it out the way and get the worst thing out the way so that you can gain momentum and you can get that motivation and move forward. Start small. Remember what I said to you about eating the elephant one bite at a time. Sometimes it's just the small changes you make and the small steps that you take. Track your progress. I said to you, very basic thing that I do for myself is using my highlighter and highlighting my list for the day to track my progress during the day and what I'm managing to get done. Reward yourself. How do you reward yourself? I'm not talking about splurging out on, I don't know, the new brand of trainers that you dream of or whatever it might be, but the small things that you reward yourself, that little break where you do go make your favorite cup of coffee and go sit for 5 minutes and enjoy it, or put on some music to listen to and catch your breath, or just connect with some friends. What do you do to reward yourself? And always remind yourself of your why. Remind yourself with your studies, why are you doing this? Why have you taken on the course or the courses that you're pushing through at the moment? Keep your why in mind. Remember the purpose behind this. And try mirror talk, which is positive self-talk, where you could look yourself in the mirror and you can say, I'm not perfect, but I'm doing the best that I can. Or you've got this. I've got somebody who shared with me recently. He looks in his car mirror every morning as he gets ready to leave the house to go to work. He looks in the mirror and he winks at himself and he says, you've got this. And that gives him a smile and it keeps him boosted for the day. So find what works for you. And I'm going to finish off by saying you are worth it. You always were and you always will be. So go find that confidence, go keep going. You can do it. You can do it. All right, and that brings me to the end. I see some people have hung on, so thank you so much for that. I'm quickly going to look, going to just see if there's anything in the chat. The things I always say, I hate studying. This is boring. Why did I register? Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yes, it may not be the most interesting thing when you're studying. I know sometimes it's just a matter of pushing through. But look at that negative self-talk. You've got to keep your why in mind. Why are you doing that? Find your strength and your confidence in that. I'm watching in between work and getting calls. May you please share today. It's recording, shame. There's somebody trying to find balance. All right. Joining for the first time, Petunia. Welcome, Petunia. Thank you for joining us. And welcome, Mary. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate just the bit of connection there that you have shared in the chat. Lovely to see some new names and some new faces. And that really just going to bring me to the end to say goodbye. I've stolen enough of your time. I know everybody's time is valuable. Our next session is on the 21st of August, so please join us then. We're going to look at mastering the art of communication. We could all do with improving our communication skills, whether it's in our personal life or our work and professional lives. So we're going to join together to talk about that, and I'm looking forward to having you then. All right. Oh, and then let me stop sharing and get back to the main screen and just check in with you. And now I can't. Let me go. There we go. I can see everyone again. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the comments. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Lizelle. Lovely to see you and to have you all. Thank you, Mary. Really appreciate you joining and taking this time out to invest in yourself. Go get it. Go find some balance. Keep working at it. Build that confidence. Take it one bite at a time. You got this. You've got this and you're worth it. And I will see you next month. Thank you so much. Thank you to Ngoni and to Pumla for assisting with our technical issues. I appreciate it. And yeah, I wish you all well. Have a good day further. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.